Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. This is going to be the second in our second video on the combat phase. The first video in combat phase was land combat, and this is the second video on naval combat. Now I had set up on the other phase earlier today in combat movement, I had set up a whole bunch of attacks, and so I was going to use that one. It was a French attack, but it was also part of an amphibious assault, and I decided that I wanted to make separate videos for all of them, so I thought I'd just set up another scenario here, and I haven't done the combat movement on it yet, but I don't want it to be part of an amphibious assault. I want it to just be a straight naval battle. So I'm going to show you a naval battle here. The Americans are going to attack the Japanese over here. Now, naval combat is a little bit more complicated than land combat, just because of the submarines. At least I find it more complicated anyway, and I don't know, maybe it's just me. But submarines, when you're used to playing it the Axis and Allies way, then it's going to be a little bit more complicated because the rules on them are completely different. Now, if you're looking for the rules on naval combat in the rule book, it's on page 41 there, and you see there's naval combat. And on the other side, on the next page, is special submarine rules there. So we're going to go through the submarine rules before we get to the naval combat, just so that you can understand the submarine rules and how it's different. So on the first round of combat, and only on the first round of combat, the attacking submarines have first strike unless the defender has a destroyer. And in this case here, the Japanese do have a destroyer. So regardless of how many submarines the Americans have, they're not going to get that first strike capability. And what would have happened there is that the submarines would have, if they had a casualty, then they would have taken a unit off of the defender, and that unit would not have returned fire because the submarines, they snuck up on him and they nailed him before he even had a chance to load his gun. Put it that way, okay? So that's the first thing, and that's only in the first round, and it's only the attacking submarines. It's not the defending submarines. Now, both attacking and defending submarines have a target selection of 1. And so the person rolling the 1 gets to choose the target, right? If you roll a 1 as the attacker, then you choose what the defender is going to lose. So that's great if somebody has a damaged battleship or something, then you can say, yeah, I'm taking that last hit on that battleship there. And you can remove the battleship instead of taking off a destroyer or something, which the other guy would elect to do. Or you could elect to take the hit on the aircraft carrier, especially if they have no place to land their planes. Like in this case here, if it was the Americans, the Japan owns the land here, so the planes, if the aircraft carrier was damaged, they could still land on the land. But if it's the other way around, if it's the American carriers that are damaged, then there's no place for them to land, right? So if you choose your target, then you could choose the carrier. So very important. It's hard to roll. I mean, it's a 12-sided dice and you have to roll a 1, but it's a big advantage to have with the submarines. Okay, so, and also the attacking submarines may submerge. They can retreat but stay in the same zone. That's what that means. Instead of making an attack roll on any round. So you can choose, in the 4th round, okay, you know what? I'm just going to submerge. I've had enough of this attacking, right? And also, a sub can never cause a hit to an aircraft. So like if all that's left is aircraft on the other side, then your subs, you might as well not even roll them, because it doesn't matter what you roll, you can't cause a casualty on the other side. And also when you're losing units, like if you have a battleship and a fighter left, and the other guy gets 1 hit with his fighter, then you're going to have to lose the battleship, because you don't have the option of losing an aircraft when it gets hit by a submarine, right? And as far as the defenders now, the defending submarines may not be attacked unless the attacker has an aircraft on combat air patrol. This threw me for a loop. This is actually the second time I've made this video, and I called Doug, and Doug didn't know the answer to it, and so I read a bunch of places in the rules, and I think I've got it figured out. So there's no way for me to put a fighter on combat air control as the American player down here, but I was also reading, and like where they talk about submarines in the unit section there, it says here that a submarine may decline combat with any group of enemy units, does not include patrolling / carrier-based aircraft. So to me what that says is that if you brought fighters and tactical bombers in here from a carrier, then they should be able to take out a submarine as well. But that kind of threw me for a loop. It's like, what? It seemed to me that the subs weren't even allowed to fight in that battle, even if they wanted to, if you didn't have that combat air patrol, right? And that didn't seem that seemed kind of wonky to me. But anyway, I think that you can make them fight if you bring in planes. Okay, and they may submerge instead of making a roll on any round. So they can decide to submerge anytime they want. And again, they can never cause a hit to an aircraft. And that's about it for subs. So let's get into the naval combat. First of all, you're going to have to move your units in there, and I'll show you these again. I always show you these. So there's the American one, and I also have the Japanese one. So you're going to want to know what your units do in the fight, right? Like, first of all, you're going to want to know that the Americans can reach down there, and I have no doubt that they can because they're at a naval base. But with naval units, you have to be careful because some of them move 2 and some of them move 3. And coastal subs will only move 1, right? But you don't want to attack something 3 spaces away when half your ships can only move 2, right? So, but with you being at an air base or a naval base here, you're going to be able to move them all. This is 3 spaces away where I'm going, so I know that I can go 3 spaces with them. But another thing that you need to know is, like, there's a couple of battleships in here that are specialty units. Like, we have the Yamato battleship and we have the Iowa class battleship. And so when you look at those, like, here's the Iowa class battleship. It rolls at a 9 or less, and so does the Yamato. The Yamato class rolls at a 9 or less, and the Yamato it takes 3 hits to kill it. The other one, the Iowa class, takes 2 hits to kill it, just like a regular battleship. But anyway, I wanted to show you those because on the battle boards, it's battleships hit at 8 or less, but these ones are going to roll at 9 or less. So you need to be aware of what your units do in a fight, and there's a bit more variation on naval units. So we're going to move in there. We've got the fighters, and they're going to fly down. So there's 1, 2, 3. So we're going to move everybody down there, right? And then we're going to move all of these other units in there. And you remember what I said about the target selection with the submarines, right? Well, for that reason, I'm not going to move the carriers into there. I'm going to move these down a non-combat movement instead, and then land the planes on them, because I don't want somebody taking my carriers out like that. I don't want the submarines taking my carriers out. So there we have it there. So what we're going to do, let's just move this over here. And we've got the battle boards. I've taken some of the units off over here that normally are in the Pacific, just so I could fit all this stuff here. So remember, like, here's the attacker. Remember the battleship, the Yamato, is at 9 and not 8. And now these ones will be at 8. And we have 3 destroyers here. So they are at 4. Both attacking and defense are at 4. Cruisers, they're at 6. There's 3 cruisers. We've got the 2 submarines, and they're in first strike. They're at 3. And then we have the planes. We've got the tactical bombers, and we've got the fighters. And that's it. That's all our units. So now with the Japanese, like we've made our combat moves, right? Now the Japanese can decide whether or not they want to scramble this fighter here, and it just depends on what's going on in the game, right? Like the Americans have enough here to take these guys out probably, right? But how bad do you want to hit them? You know what I mean? Like that's the question. And you got to remember, like this Yamato has one more hit to take than the Iowa class battleship. And if you throw a fighter in there, like you scramble the fighter, plus you've got this in there that can take 2 hits, then it could be that you want to take down this American fleet as much as possible, or it could be you want to save as many boats as you can. Like you can decide to decline combat after the first round with these submarines, right? So you could save the fighter and the 2 submarines if you wanted to. Or you could say, you know what, I'm going to go all in because I just want to take off as many Americans as I can because of what else is happening in the Pacific. And so that's up to you, you know what I mean? But you know what, we're going to go all in on this fight. So we're going to scramble the fighter, and we're going to elect, at least in the beginning, to fight with the submarines. So these ones here, let's just move this down so you can see. We're putting these on, and we got the Yamato in the 9 slot, and we got the regular battleship in the 8 slot. The carrier, fleet carrier, is down here in 2. Medium bomber is only a 4. Oh, sorry, that's not a medium. It's tactical bomber. That's a 5. Fighters at 6. And we've got the subs. And they're at 3. I think actually, though, that it says first strikes subs down here. So when you read the rules, then it doesn't mention defending submarines. But it seemed to me that with submarines should have had first strike when they were the defenders as well. But then when I read them again today, then it seems like they don't have it. So there you go. You've got everybody set up there, right? We're going to get the dice out. And so the submarines would have had first strike capability if this destroyer wasn't here. But the fact that the destroyer is there makes it so they don't have first strike. So anyway, I guess we'll just roll everybody then. So we've got 2 submarines at 3, and remember they've got a target selection, and that's the one thing I should check on with the other units as well, just to make sure that they don't have target selection, like those big battleships might or something, right? So the Yamato, it doesn't say anything about target selection. And the Iowa, no, it doesn't say anything about target selection either. So I guess it's just the subs in this fight that have target selection. And of course the tactical bombers. So we got 3 subs for the Americans. And there's 1. Look at that. They got a 1 right off the bat there. So now they're going to choose a casualty. What would you take off? You know, in this game, when you take a hit on a battleship, like here, your battleship is rolling at 8. Over here, it rolls at 7, right? So that might be a good idea right there to get this battleship down. So let's take the hit on this battleship here. So we'll move it over to here, but we know that it's going to actually. Let's just put it down here. We know it's going to roll at 8, but on the next round it's going to roll at 7. Okay, so that's the subs. We've got 3 destroyers, and they roll at 4. There's 1, 2. Oh my goodness, 3 hits on those. 3, 3, 4. Wow. So I guess these guys will. And it's well, let's just keep going. Let's see how many. You don't really have to take the casualty yet on this, do you? I mean, you're going to have to take the casualties after this round, but see how many hits they get. You might want to save those submarines if things go very badly here. So that's 3 hits, and we've got 5 here. Get 1 more dice for the Americans. And that's at 6, so 1, so just 1 hit there, so that's 4 hits altogether. And then we've got 2 tactical bombers, and that's a 6 and a 12, and it's at 7, so that's 5 hits. 2 battleships at 8, so 5. That's a hit, that's 6. And we got the Iowa class at 9 or less, and that's a hit. So that's 7 hits. What would that be? That would be 2 hits here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you know what? I think the Argent. Let's just leave them in there because this is just a demonstration anyway. So that's 2 hits, 4 hits, 5 hits, 6 hits. 2, 4, 5, 6, and this one 7. Oh, wait a minute, 7. I should have rolled these separately. Remember from the land combat thing there, where the fighters have air superiority. So I got 1 hit in there. I don't know how to go back and redo that. Let's just see here. 3 cruisers. That's a couple hits. And that's. Let's say that we didn't get a hit on there, but even if we did get 1 of them, then these guys have already lost an aircraft anyway. So that's all they would have had to do. But you have to remember to do that, and I forgive me for forgetting that. But you have to remember to roll those separately in the first round, so that the fighters can have their first strike, or sorry, so they can do their air superiority. Okay, so we roll back then, and we've got the aircraft carrier. That's a 2, and hey, there's a hit. So there you go. So that's 1 hit, and we've got 2 subs, and they're at 3. So 1, and those are misses. And we've got a destroyer. That's at 4. So no hit. And a tactical bomber, and that's a 3, so that's target selection. So they're going to choose a target now. With the battle going so badly, I don't think that they're ever going to get to the point where they're going to be able to take off a battleship, right? So I think that what they'll do is they'll choose a cruiser as a casualty. So we'll just say that one's already gone. They've got 1 hit to go. So then they've got 1, and I'll remember to do it with these guys. So they got 1 at 6, and that's missed. And then they've got 2 with the fighters at 6, and those are misses. So that's too bad, because they would have taken off planes with those ones. And the battleship, remember, he gets to roll at 8 here. So he's at 8. And that's a 2. So that's 2 hits altogether. We'll put that back on there now. And then the Yamato at 9. And that's a hit as well. So that's 3 hits off the Americans. So they're going to take let's keep 1 sub. And we'll take 2 of these off. There we go. Okay, so that's what it looks like now. These things are all gone, and things did not go very well for the Japanese there. So they probably shouldn't have scrambled that fighter, and they probably shouldn't have went into the fight with the subs. But what the hell? We're just learning the game, right? Okay, so we don't have first strike anymore. That's in the first round of combat. So we'll just start rolling. So we got 1 at 3, and that's a miss. And we got 1 at 4, and that's a miss. And we have 4 at 6 because we don't have to worry about air superiority anymore. So we can roll all those at once. And that's 1, 2 hits. And then we got 2 tactical bombers here. That's 7. So 2 hits plus 3, 4 hits. But one of them we get to choose. So we're going to choose this one here. Okay. So we're down to 3 hits because we've already got one there. And then we've got 2 battleships at 8. And that's 1 hit, so that's 4. And the Iowa at 9, 4, and then 1 is 5. So 5 hits on these guys. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This takes 3 hits. So that's everybody. Okay, then they roll back. They've got 2 fighters, and that's 1 hit. And they've got a battleship at 7. Remember, it's not at 8 anymore. It's a damaged battleship. So at 7, and that's a miss. And then they've got the Iowa at 9, and that's a hit. So that's 2. So we'll take these 2 guys off. All right. So let's move this. And we take all of these off. And move this over. Okay, these guys are all in here now. Let's just move this camera up here. These guys are all in here. And we finish off our tacks and everything everywhere else. You know, one thing I could have mentioned, and it probably would have been a good idea, I'll tell you in a second. I'm going to move these all the way down there. Instead of just moving them 2, I'm going to move them 3, and then we can land our planes on them. Okay. Now, and it comes, it's about retreating. In my quest to find out the answers to the submarine question, I found something on retreating that I thought was interesting and that was different than Axis and Allies. I kind of glossed over it because you start reading something and you go, oh, I know how to retreat, you know. And so you don't read the rest. But let me just find it here. Retreats from combat. Attacking units may retreat at the end of any round of combat. This retreat is in lieu of making their next round of combat rolls. So that's nothing new. Like you're the attacker and you finished a round of combat, you can retreat, right? It says the player who elects to retreat must retreat with all land or naval units in battle. Now that's the key phrase there, because that doesn't talk about air units. Like remember in the case that we just had there, we could have retreated with the after the first round, we could have retreated with the air units for the Japanese. Actually, sorry, no, that's only the attacker. Yeah. That's only the attacker. But that is interesting that you could continue on an attack with your naval units or with your land units, but you could retreat with any or all of your aircraft in a fight. Like, because then when you keep going there and you're reading it, so aircraft, a player may retreat any number of attacking aircraft from combat at the end of any combat round. Aircraft may only retreat to the limit of their remaining movement points. Aircraft on combat air patrol may only retreat their patrol range. So if the Americans were to retreat with their boats, though, it says naval units may retreat 1 space. They must retreat into a zone that at least one of the attacking unit came from. So they came from this into here, like they started up in Hawaii, and they came through here, so they would have all had to retreat here. But they didn't retreat, instead they kicked ass, right? So they didn't need to retreat. But anyway, I wanted to mention that. And I hope I didn't confuse you by saying that they could have retreated the Japanese. That's absolutely wrong. I kind of confused myself there. So yeah, at the end of any round of combat, you can retreat any or all of your planes if you're the attacker. But in this case, we weren't going to do that. Now, in this fight here, all we did was we took over the land here. We did not take over any of the land, or sorry, we took the sea zone there, and the sea zone's not worth anything, right? We did not touch the land at all. We don't get any money for it or anything. All we got was that space where they were. And now, you know, like if the Japanese had a whole bunch of units up there, then they probably think about coming down here and taking us out, right? So it probably wasn't a good move for the Japanese to be there to begin with, in range of those American boats. And that's something that you need to be mindful of. There was just way too many American boats there. Even though the attack went well for them, even if the attack had gone the other way, then the Japanese still weren't looking good on that for winning that fight. But the Americans, they made a good move there, and they went down and they took them out. And then if they had some transports there, then they could come down and take the Caroline Islands, and that would give them a nice base down there. They would have had a naval base and an air base, and within striking range of Japan. But that is an example of naval combat, and I hope I didn't confuse you too much by contradicting myself. It's funny, you know, like you're trying to make these videos, and I'm not an expert at this game yet. I'm just learning the game, right? And I'm bringing you along for the ride, learning it with me. And so you kind of, sometimes you discover things while you're doing it, right? Now here, this is another example of a naval combat that I'm going to do, but it's part of an amphibious assault, right? Like you need to split up your forces. So all of these things here are actually in this zone as well, but they're not in this fight with the boats here. These guys here and these land units here, they're going to attack Rome, whereas these naval units here are going to have a naval combat with these boats here, and it's just a straight up naval combat. There's nothing special about it. They had a couple of fighters here scramble from an air base there before they were taken out. Anyway, we're going to get to that video next, and that will be a video on amphibious assaults. So that is the end of this video, all about naval combat. And there's probably more to learn about naval combat, but you know, like it's kind of something that you got to play, right? I think probably what's a little more intricate as far as naval combat goes is the movement, you know, like how you move around the board and how everything moves. Rolling is fairly straightforward, except for subs. Subs are kind of confusing, but rolling's pretty easy. As long as you remember those things, and you can see it's not easy to remember, and that's why the battle board helps, because you know, like it spreads everything out, and you should remember that the fighters have to roll separately, you know, and you got to remember that you've got your first strike, things like that. But in time, all these things will all become second nature. So that's me. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.